Did you know that one of Hollywood's most mysterious men may have secretly tied the knot in Europe this summer? When news outlets began whispering that Keanu Reeves, the famously private actor, had quietly married his longtime partner, artist Alexandra Grant, the entire entertainment industry froze for a moment. For years, Reeves had been a symbol of solitude in Hollywood, a man too grounded, too spiritual, too reluctant to play the fame game. And yet, behind closed doors, a love story had been unfolding that most of the world had only guessed at. The rumor began not in Los Angeles, but in Paris. An art dealer who had worked with Grant's studio reportedly mentioned that the couple looked happier than ever during a private trip to the French countryside. A few weeks later, paparazzi caught photos of the two holding hands at a small chapel outside Provence. No red carpet, no Hollywood entourage, no publicity stunt. Just the quiet intimacy of two people who had weathered years of speculation and found peace in each other's company. At first, the story seemed too good, or perhaps too quiet, to be true. Reeves and Grant had been together since 2017, but they'd always managed to keep their relationship far from the spotlight. In a world where celebrity couples are defined by Instagram posts and public declarations, their silence became their trademark. When fans spotted a gold band on Alexandra's finger during a charity gala in Berlin, online communities erupted with theories. Some swore it was a wedding ring. Others insisted it was just a statement piece. Still, the whispers grew louder. Industry insiders claimed that the ceremony took place in late July, somewhere in southern Europe, possibly Italy or France. A few even said it happened in a 16th-century villa overlooking the Mediterranean, with only a handful of friends present. It was small, elegant, and deeply personal, said one source who allegedly knew a guest. They didn't want attention. They wanted authenticity. And that word, authenticity, perfectly captures Keanu Reeves. Reeves' entire career has been built around authenticity. From his humble beginnings as a young actor in River's Edge to global fame as Neo in The Matrix, he has always avoided the vanity and arrogance often associated with Hollywood success. In interviews, he often speaks softly, choosing his words carefully, as if guarding parts of himself from the noise of fame. That's what makes the idea of a secret wedding not only believable, but deeply fitting. For Keanu, love isn't performance. It's private, sacred, and human. What fascinates both fans and journalists alike is how this relationship managed to stay so untainted by fame. Alexandra Grant is not your typical Hollywood partner. She's an accomplished visual artist, intellectual, poetic, and fiercely independent. The two met through creative collaboration, working together on Reeves' book Ode to Happiness. Their connection wasn't born from glitz or red carpets, but from a shared sense of depth and purpose. They see the world in similar tones, said an art curator familiar with their work. There's a mutual respect that defines their love, not publicity. And yet, the moment the story of their alleged marriage broke, the internet did what it always does, divided itself. Some fans celebrated the idea of Reeves finally finding lifelong happiness after personal tragedy, while others questioned the accuracy of the reports. Entertainment outlets reached out to both parties for confirmation. As usual, there was none. Reeves' representatives stayed silent. Grant's team simply said, no comment. That silence only fueled the intrigue. To many observers, it felt like the ultimate Keanu move, to live a deeply meaningful milestone without spectacle or headlines. Hollywood is a town that feeds on exposure. For someone like Reeves, who spent decades avoiding the glare, privacy is a form of rebellion. Whether the whispers are true or not, one thing is undeniable. The story fits him. A man who's seen the highs and lows of life, fame, loss, love, and loneliness, finally choosing peace over publicity. By mid-August, the rumor had evolved into something larger, a modern myth of Hollywood romance. Fan accounts began circulating alleged photos of the European ceremony, though none were verified. Online sleuths compared jewelry, background settings, even the color of Alexandra's dress in old photos. Others speculated that the couple had intentionally let the rumor spread as a quiet acknowledgement of their bond, a way to say yes, without ever saying it out loud. But those who know Keanu Reeves best say it wouldn't be a surprise if the whispers were true. He doesn't need validation, one former co-star told Vanity Fair. For him, love is enough. The world doesn't need to know every detail. Still, one question lingers. If the story is true, why keep it secret? What would make two people at the center of Hollywood's constant glare choose to step completely out of the spotlight at such a life-defining moment? The answer, it seems, may lie not in what they're hiding, but in what they've already learned about love, loss, and the price of fame. For most actors, romance in Hollywood is performance. It's red carpets, interviews, perfectly timed smiles, and PR-managed love stories designed to keep both careers relevant. But for Keanu Reeves, that entire framework always felt hollow. He'd seen too much loss, too much pain, to ever view love as a branding tool. His rumored secret wedding to Alexandra Grant isn't shocking because it happened. It's shocking because it wasn't meant to be public at all. To understand why Reeves might choose such extreme privacy, you have to look back at his history. In 1999, just as The Matrix was transforming him into a global icon, Reeves' life quietly collapsed. His girlfriend, actress Jennifer Syme, gave birth to their stillborn daughter. Less than 2 years later, Syme herself was killed in a car accident. The grief was shattering. Reeves withdrew from Hollywood's social scene, refusing to capitalize on sympathy. Grief changes shape, but it never ends, he once said in a rare moment of candor. That sentence alone revealed more about his soul than 100 interviews ever could. Since then, Keanu's relationship with the spotlight has been fragile. He learned early that the public's fascination with his pain could be just as intrusive as its fascination with his fame. That's why his partnership with Alexandra Grant felt different from the start. She met him not as a superstar, but as an equal, a fellow creator, someone who understood both the beauty and burden of living in the public eye. Together, they built a quiet world that existed beyond the camera lens. Those who have observed them over the years describe something incredibly rare, an adult love unshaken by ego. They attend events, but never dominate them. They hold hands, but never perform affection for the cameras. They collaborate artistically, yet never turn it into a brand. Reeves' refusal to commercialize his personal life stands in stark contrast to a culture obsessed with visibility. To him, visibility means vulnerability, and not the healing kind. Insiders say this philosophy extends to everything he does. While most actors live in gated mansions, Reeves still resides in a modest Los Angeles home. He takes the subway. He gives up his seat. He rides motorcycles alone. Every action, every silence, sends the same message: privacy is power. And love, when real, doesn't need validation. That's why the idea of a secret wedding doesn't sound like a publicity stunt. It sounds like self-protection. Hollywood couples are made and unmade in headlines. Engagements are announced with press releases, marriages streamed on Instagram. But Keanu and Alexandra have always operated on a different wavelength. They're spiritual partners, said a gallerist who's worked with Grant. They create, they travel, they exist together. Marriage is just a word. What they have goes beyond that. Still, if the whispers are true, their union is a kind of quiet rebellion, a rejection of the transactional nature of celebrity romance. Reeves has spoken before about the superficiality of modern fame, calling it a machine that eats emotion and sells illusion. For him, to love privately is to love purely. And that purity has become increasingly rare in a city built on performance. Fans, of course, can't help romanticizing it. The idea that the internet's boyfriend, the man who's been turned into countless memes celebrating his kindness and humility, might have found lifelong happiness. It's comforting. It feels poetic, almost restorative. In a world where scandals dominate headlines, a story built on mutual respect feels revolutionary. But Reeves would probably reject even that interpretation. He doesn't see himself as a symbol. He's just a man who's lived long enough to know what matters. In interviews, he avoids discussing his relationship altogether. When pressed, he redirects the topic or simply smiles and says, "Life is good when you have peace." That peace, according to those close to him, comes largely from Grant. Her calm presence, her intellect, and her refusal to play Hollywood's fame game have grounded him in ways few imagined possible. She doesn't want the spotlight, and that's why it works, said one longtime friend. She sees Keanu, not the myth. As speculation continues, the public faces a question it rarely asks. Do we deserve to know? Must every love story be documented, photographed, and verified to be real? Reeves seems to have already answered that question by disappearing. If his rumored wedding truly happened, it wasn't meant for us. It was meant for him, for her, for the small circle of souls who've earned their trust. And yet, that secrecy only adds to the fascination. Maybe that's the irony of Keanu Reeves, that by refusing to feed Hollywood's hunger for spectacle, he becomes even more magnetic. In his silence, the world finds its own reflection, a longing for something genuine, unfiltered, untouched by algorithms or PR spin. Still, one can't help but wonder, what does happiness look like for a man who's spent decades searching for peace in a world that never stops watching? When the rumor of Keanu Reeves' secret wedding began to spread, it was dismissed by most as tabloid fantasy. But then came the photos, blurry, distant, and suspiciously well-timed. A European magazine published what it claimed were images of a private ceremony somewhere along the Mediterranean coast. A man with Keanu's unmistakable silhouette stood beneath an ancient stone archway. Beside him, a woman in silver gray, her hair tied loosely, appeared to be Alexandra Grant. The article stated simply, no publicity, no noise, just love. Within hours, the internet lost its mind. Still, most serious publications held back. There were no official confirmations, no invitations, no statements. Even fans who wanted to believe found themselves questioning everything. Was it really him? Was it staged? Could anyone as private as Keanu allow a moment that's sacred to be photographed at all? But one thing was clear, someone, somewhere, had witnessed something. A journalist from a French lifestyle outlet later reported that a small villa near St. Paul-de-Vence had been rented for a single evening under the name Anderson, Keanu's middle name. The guest list, according to local sources, was barely a dozen people. 2 family friends, 3 from the art world, and a discreet officiant. The celebration was said to be minimalist, a wooden table, wildflowers, candlelight, no photographers. The only music was a soft cello piece played live by a friend. No one toasted, no one spoke loudly. It felt more like a vow renewal than a wedding, one neighbor recalled. They seemed peaceful. It was like watching 2 souls already at home in each other. For a story so quiet, it made a global noise. American media scrambled to confirm the details, but Keanu's team maintained silence. It wasn't denial, it was simply refusal to participate in speculation. That very silence became part of the legend. In Hollywood, no comment often means yes. And for a man whose every public appearance turns into a viral moment, the idea of him managing to celebrate something so intimate without exposure felt almost supernatural. What few people understood, however, was that this wasn't an act of secrecy. It was an act of defiance. Both Reeves and Grant had long rejected the idea that love should be consumed by strangers. Their relationship existed outside algorithms, beyond the curated image of celebrity romance. This was their form of protest, not to hide love, but to protect it. By late August, the online frenzy had reached absurd levels. Social media accounts began creating timelines of supposed sightings. Keanu in Rome, Alexandra in Nice, both disappearing from public view for nearly 2 weeks. Fans scoured travel records, art event rosters, even restaurant bookings. One user on Reddit wrote, "If Keanu really got married in secret, that's the most Keanu thing ever." It wasn't sarcasm, it was admiration. The fascination wasn't just about the wedding. It was about the idea of purity in an industry built on illusion. People projected onto Reeves everything they wanted Hollywood to be: kind, humble, human. His quiet, aging grace and lack of vanity had turned him into something more than an actor. He was a symbol of decency in a place that rarely rewarded it. And the image of him exchanging vows in private with the woman who matched his soul completed that mythology. Still, there were clues that made even skeptics pause. A Los Angeles art foundation reported receiving an anonymous donation of $50,000 in the name of A+K, dated a week after the supposed ceremony. Reeves also appeared briefly in Berlin days later, wearing what looked like a silver ring on his left hand, but reversed, inner band facing out, as though to conceal it. When asked by fans for a photo, he smiled softly and said, "Let's keep it in the moment." Those close to him understood the subtext. Keanu had lived through love's fragility. He knew how fame could distort intimacy. If he had indeed married Alexandra, he wasn't going to turn that moment into spectacle. Theirs was a story of healing, not headlines. "They've both seen how public curiosity destroys tenderness," one former collaborator said. "Their love thrives because it isn't for show. It's for them." The world might never know the full truth, whether vows were spoken, whether rings were exchanged, or whether the chapel by the sea was just another romantic myth. But perhaps that's the point. Keanu Reeves' legacy has never been about exposure, it's about presence. He teaches by example that privacy isn't secrecy, it's sincerity. In an age where everything is shared, the decision to keep something sacred is revolutionary. As the summer drew to a close, one final detail emerged. A local florist from the same French region claimed she delivered a single bouquet of lavender and white roses to the villa that night. No note, no card, just two initials, K and A. To be continued in Part 4, The Meaning of Silence. By the time autumn rolled around, the whispers about Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant's secret wedding had settled into a strange kind of calm, not forgotten, but quietly accepted. There was no statement, no denial, no official photographs. The tabloids had moved on to louder scandals, but something about this story lingered. It wasn't the mystery itself that fascinated people, it was the peace that surrounded it. In a culture addicted to noise, Keanu's silence had become the loudest sound in Hollywood. For years, Reeves has represented a different rhythm of fame. While others chase relevance, he chooses stillness. When actors turn heartbreak into publicity, he turns it into poetry. And perhaps that's what his rumored marriage truly symbolizes. Not rebellion, not secrecy, but grace. A man who's lost so much deciding that happiness doesn't need to be broadcast to be real. Those close to him say he's never looked more content. Friends who've seen the couple together describe a serenity that words can barely capture. He smiles more now, one insider said. It's not the camera smile. It's quiet, like someone who finally came home. Alexandra's influence on his life is visible not through public gestures, but through absence. The absence of chaos, of headlines, of the emotional restlessness that so often follows stardom. Together, they've built something radically un-Hollywood, a relationship that doesn't seek attention. The world learned long ago that Reeves doesn't owe explanations. He's turned down talk shows, ignored viral questions, and resisted every attempt to make his personal life consumable. Even now, when fans beg for confirmation, he says nothing. To him, that silence is an act of love, a boundary that protects what matters. For Alexandra, it's the same. She once told an interviewer that true intimacy lives in what's unseen. That philosophy defines them. It's worth remembering that Keanu Reeves has been at the center of fame for nearly 4 decades. He's played icons, revolutionized action cinema, and inspired generations of fans who see in him something rare, authenticity. But authenticity demands sacrifice. To stay real in a world of constant visibility means letting go of validation. Reeves did that long ago. He doesn't post, doesn't pose, doesn't pretend. And that, paradoxically, has made him timeless. So when people speculate about a secret wedding, maybe they're missing the point. Maybe the ceremony itself doesn't matter. Maybe the real story is about 2 people who've chosen peace over performance. A quiet promise made somewhere under a Mediterranean sky, witnessed only by those who understood that some moments are meant to stay untouched. Hollywood, of course, doesn't know what to do with that kind of story. There's no scandal to print, no betrayal to frame, no chaos to monetize. And yet, this quiet love between Reeves and Grant continues to resonate, precisely because it feels pure. In an era when relationships are content, theirs feels sacred. The contrast is almost spiritual. Fame that doesn't corrupt, love that doesn't need an audience. Some say the greatest thing Keanu Reeves ever gave the world wasn't a role or a performance, but a reminder that humanity still exists behind the fame. That kindness isn't weakness. That privacy isn't secrecy. And that love, when it's real, doesn't need proof. In recent months, a few new photos of the couple have surfaced, walking through L.A., attending a small book launch, sharing a quiet smile in a cafe. No wedding rings are visible, but their connection speaks louder than jewelry ever could. They move through life as if surrounded by an invisible shield of mutual respect. They don't rush, they don't hide, they simply are. And maybe that's the answer to the question everyone's been asking. Did they really get married? Maybe the truth is simpler and far more profound. They didn't need to. For people like Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant, love isn't a contract. It's a choice renewed every day, quietly, without witnesses. As one journalist wrote after meeting them, they don't act like a couple trying to protect a secret. They act like 2 people who already found what everyone else in Hollywood is still searching for. So whether the wedding happened or not may never be confirmed. The real story lives in the way they carry themselves, in the calm they radiate, in the way they seem untouched by the chaos around them. Because for Keanu Reeves, silence has never been emptiness. It's peace. And peace, in a world that profits from noise, is the rarest love story of all. End of story.